Hello friends, welcome to ASP.NET tutorial. In this sub-series, we will see how to use the controls that performs data binding with in-memory data. So we will see how we can use the data binding by using the in-memory collection, and in the next sub-series, we will do the same thing with SQL Server database. Alright, in this video we will get introduced to collection and data binding. A control such as drop-down list can show elements via items collection. So we already know that the control maintains item collection, and through that we can populate number of items. So if you populated 7 items, those 7 items will be shown in the drop-down list control. We can also attach a collection to data source property of the control, right? So you can create a collection. It can be an array list or array, whatever it is. You can use the standard .NET collection, and you can assign that collection to data source. So you can do this also, and when you do this, the collection items will be displayed in the control. Once control knows its data source, the call to the data bind method iterates through the collection and shows that in the control, right? Collection's content, it will show in the control through the data bind method. So first you need to set the data source property with a collection. After that, make a call to data bind. Remaining, the control will do the magic. So the control will iterate through the collection assigned to this data source and displays that in the display area. If it is a drop-down control, when you click the down arrow button, you will see all the collection item. If it is a list box, it will be shown in the display area. We can also perform data binding via the data source controls. There will be specialized controls. You can use that control and do the data binding. We can also perform data binding via data source controls, which manages a set of database commands. So the data source controls are specific to database, and it will maintain database commands as well, like insert, update, delete. So that's for data manipulation, and select, that one is for data retrieval. These data source controls are DB source specific. We will learn about data source control when we move to the next sub-series. These data source controls are database source specific. For example, there will be controls for accessing XML data source. That means here the data present in XML file, or SQL Server data source, data presence in the backend SQL Server database. You can use Oracle and other databases as well. But the point here is these data source controls are database specific. Say for example, when we are talking about SQL Server data source, the data source control name is SQL data source. Binding the ASP.NET control with data source control is called declarative data binding. Right? Binding the ASP.NET control with data source control is called declarative binding. Say for example, there will be data source control, and let's state the data source control name, or the data source control is SQL data source. And this SQL data source knows a set of database commands, say insert, update, delete, as well as select. So once you educate the SQL data source control, which knows how to talk to the SQL Server DB. Alright, and when the SQL data source control is ready, you can make use of the data source property. Say for example, if you have a combo box, right, you can make use of the data source control, data source property, and assign the data source to this control. And since SQL data source knows insert, update, delete command, it knows what data to fetch and it will display that in the corresponding combo box or drop down list. So that's what here we are saying, binding the ASP.NET control. This is ASP.NET control, binding the ASP.NET control with the data source control. This is an example for data source control, is called declarative data binding. Alright, now we know what is data source control and how we can assign collection to the data source control. And we also know it's possible to make use of the data source control and assign all that also to the ASP.NET control. So when we talk about ASP.NET control, say the drop down list, you can use the data source property. And using the data source property, you can assign SQDC, SQL data source control, or you can make use of .NET collection also. In both cases, the combo will populate the data content. Here it is in-memory content cooked by your application, and here it is in the backend, and the content will be read from the database and supplied to the combo box. So the key here is the data source property. That's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.